is leveraging technology to maintain a competitive advantage, which I love. I'm sure we all are being mindful of that. Our speakers are Sal Patalano and Robert Salwasser. Sal is EVP for North America for Plentific. Sal has founded several successful IT companies and has had leadership roles in top tech companies, including IBM, CA Technologies, and Lenovo. Robert is the founder and president of Income Property Specialists, a leading real estate investor and property manager. He's a technology innovator in real estate and serves as a multifamily venture firm partner for the venture capital firm, Shadow Ventures. Sal, Robert, welcome.
Waiting for the electrician to call back. Waiting for the quote to be approved. Waiting for feedback from the tenant. Honestly, why wait? Waiting for things costs real estate owners and operators a lot of money and frustrates tenants. That's why time can never go fast enough. At Plentific, we believe there's something better than fast. Now. Imagine finding a contractor instantly. Checking the status of repairs in real time. Having a clear view of daily tasks and priorities, always. Paying your service providers with one click. Closing the loop with the tenant straight away. Making the world a better place to live. Plentific makes this dream a reality, now. With streamlined digital property solutions, actionable insights for everybody, real-time activation of your operations, workflows that can be immediately integrated into your ecosystem by changing now to get ready for tomorrow. By building communities and connecting the right people at the right time, like you and us. So, what are you waiting for? Become part of the movement. Follow us into the world of now. Plentific, real-time property solutions.
Okay, we got the plug-in. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Sal Patalano. As the moderator mentioned, I'm Executive Vice President for North America for Plentific. I'm joined on stage by Robert Salwasser. Robert's a client, and we thought the best way to illustrate what we have to speak about is to do a live case study versus just talking to you about things. So the first thing I want to do is give you a little bit about my background. I'm not from the property sector, as you may have heard from the companies I've worked at. I'm a software person. I've been in software 30 years. So I have a very different perspective on things. I spent a number of years as an entrepreneur, started a number of companies, exited those companies, and then somehow ended up in Fortune 500, entirely by accident. But the reason I point that out is the minute I moved out of software after 30 years, I had a buddy of mine call me from Seattle, and the first thing he had to tell me was, hey, I got a great property joke for you, right? So this is how it goes. There's a guy in a hot air balloon, and he's flying along. He realizes he's completely lost, so he lowers the balloon down. Gets to about 30 feet, he looks down, he sees someone, he says, hey, I promised someone I'd meet them about a half an hour ago, and I'm completely lost. Can you help me out? So the guy on the ground says, sure, you're at 40 to 41 degrees latitude and 120 to 124 degrees longitude. So the guy in the balloon looks down, he says, you must be an architect. And he says, well, how do you know that? He says, because the information you gave me was entirely accurate, but it's completely useless to me, and I still don't know where I am. So the guy on the ground looks up and says, hey, you must be a builder. He says, well, how do you know that? He says, well, you have no idea where you are, where you're going. He said, you made a promise that you can't keep. He said, now you expect me to fix it, and you're no better off than you were when I first met you. So that was the property joke, right? To me, it was funny. I'm new to the industry. Yeah, I kind of like that. So what I want to do today is we're going to have a slight, let me see if this is working. Okay. We don't have a lot of time, but I want to take a slightly different approach to the conversation today. Now, you've had a lot of folks come up and have some generic conversations, and they've given you a lot of bullets, and it's been good information. I'm going to be a little more self-serving, right, as you can tell from the logo plastered everywhere and the video. And what I want to do is take things up a level, but before I do, a little bit about Plentific to establish some credibility. So we're not a shiny new object. We've been in the industry about 10 years over in the UK, in Germany. Very successful, fastest growing prop tech in Europe, one of the best funded prop tech companies, both Europe and the United States. And as you can see, we've got about 1 million units under management, just to establish some credibility, to give you an idea. Our Series C funding was with Brookfield. I know everybody knows Brookfield. We raised about $100 million with Brookfield about a year and a half ago. And we're processing about 40,000 work orders through our platform on a monthly basis, right? So what we're doing in the US now is we're expanding in, and we're not a startup. We're absolutely a stand-up in the US. So a couple of plugs, about 300 employees, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to take the conversation up a little bit from where we are. We've heard a lot of folks talking about technology predominantly around operations, right? And I get it. Coming in from the outside, when I take a look at the industry, I'm amazed by the lack of technology, right? It really has been very slow industry to adopt what I believe is necessary. And I've spoken with a lot of you over the last year. I actually had someone come up to me at CRETEC in March of last year, and he said, I really love what you had to say. I have one question. And I said, sure. He goes, what do you mean by SaaS? Hand to God, right? I had another gentleman tell me, well, we've put some technology in. We bought Excel about 5 years ago, and we love it. You all know I'm not joking, right? We see this. But there's a sea change, right? Things are rapidly changing across the country and across the world from what we see. We manage several of the largest social housing organizations across Europe with over 100,000 doors sitting on the platform. So we get to see a great deal. So when I took a step back and I looked at the industry, and I've tried to assess over the last year what's really going on, right? In the software space, I got it. Cyber, disaster and backup recovery, cloud services, all types of software. I got it. It was my industry, right? But it's unusual to look out at a room for me and not know half the people in the room. So when I look at the property sector, I'm really trying to learn. I'm a student. And I can tell you in the last year, I got my PhD. It's been drinking from a fire hose. Now, I don't know how well you can see this slide, but I want to position where Bob is going to go and what we're seeing in the industry, okay? There is incredible pressure being pushed down on those of you in the industry who are managing property. I can't speak to the investment side and the funding side, not my space. But on property operations, the pressure is enormous, right? Expectations, I think, are different, even in the year that I've been here, from your tenants, even from your employees. Everything has changed dramatically. And I can tell you from someone who's been involved in change, and I don't want to date myself, but I go all the way back to the early days with Apple. I actually had the pleasure working with Steve for almost 6 years. So I understand sea change, and I understand how things impact an industry. And the impact that's coming now to the property sector is enormous. It's larger than what you think, right? Bill Gates had a great line. He said, if you can identify an inevitable trend and you can get ahead of it, you'll be successful, right? There are some trends. I'm not going to tell you what they are. I'm not going to tell you your business, but you need to look for them because they're happening. And however big you think this wave is, I can assure you it's bigger. I'm an outsider looking in, and I have a somewhat objective perspective. But there are dramatic changes, and we're all trying to protect, you all are trying to protect your ROI. But look at some of this. You've got supply chain challenges. They're significant. And there's some of us at the show, Plentific included, and a number of other companies and competitors that can help you solve that. You've got this whole digitalization thing, and this is what I want to talk about before I hand it off to Bob. What we are recommending, what we submit for your consideration, is this is not just about coming in and resolving your operational issues, right? Your turns, your renovations, your maintenance, repairs, inspections. It's bigger than that. Our recommendation is to look at the big picture. Look at the digitalization of your business overall for a 3 to 5 year period. Because if the focus is too myopic, the end result is not going to get you what you're looking for. Again, I've seen this. The second comment we submit for consideration, it's not so much about the tech. There's a lot of great tech out here. We know half the competitors. I've gotten to know them. We all have solid tech. It's about the change management. When I was at Lenovo, I was Chief Revenue Officer for the software division. I had companies pounding on my door to literally try to give me technology to use. Why? Because they wanted that big red logo on their logo sheet. Lenovo, largest PC manufacturer in the world at 53 billion today. I couldn't adopt it. Not because the tech wasn't good, but because of the change it was going to have on my business, having to adjust how 300 people did things. So I would suggest to you, the tech is solid. We all have good tech, right? Think about the change management associated with it. And the companies who can bring that to the table, who can show you how they will manage that for you, these are the companies that we recommend you speak with. Okay, so before I hand off to Bob, another plug, and again, something to consider, purely for consideration. We believe in a single unified platform. One platform with a single logon that will effectively give you what you need. Now again, not a shiny new object. We're doing this almost 10 years. This platform is tested, the tech is solid. One other comment. I heard someone on stage yesterday make a pretty astute comment. They said, everyone tells you the integration is easy, we'll get it working, right? Yardi, Entrata, RealPage, AppFolio, anything in the tech stack can be integrated with. I'm here to tell you, since this is my space, I lived in the integration world for 30 years. I'm going to tell you it's not easy, but with the right people, it ain't rocket science. Don't be intimidated by the integration side. Embrace it. Look at it as something that's going to plug the gaps. We're not here to replace Yardi. We don't do what Yardi does. Most of us on the floor don't. But there's a lot of gaps. It's a great platform. But it's not designed to really do things on the operational side to the extent the dedicated platform is. So don't be overly concerned with the integration. Suggestion, for what it's worth. My last slide before Bob comes up, Bob's going to focus on 3 areas. Now, as a client, Bob was looking for something that would allow him to get ahead of the curve, right? As an investment property management company, he needed technology that would allow him the famous line, skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is. And Bob looked at 3 areas he'll talk about. Turns. This, by the way, is the one area you can document a hard ROI. This is objective. Every day you run longer on a turn costs you money. We can document it. Everything else is a little more subjective. It's tougher to show the ROI, but it's there. The second area is going to be inspections. We would also submit that inspections should be integrated tightly into whatever platform you ultimately deploy. This is something we think is critical. All the data needs to be aggregated in one place. Why? For data analytics. Again, a space I come from. I was at IBM with the Cognos acquisition. This is when everyone first got into big data, and data analytics was the buzzword. I can tell you that there's data that you're not capturing, that you may think you're capturing, and the gentlemen who were just on stage here, CBRE, have told you. Garbage in, garbage out. Data's critical, particularly now in today's market as we're all trying to optimize. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce Bob. I'm going to let him talk to you a little bit about what he's doing, and this is generally a live case study. Bob, all yours.
Thank you, Sal.
You're very welcome.
We've got a lot of things to hold here. So, I own a property management company, and we specialize in apartment buildings, typically mid-size and larger, and I'm located in Cupertino, California, and that's located right in the heart of Silicon Valley. I can walk to Apple's spaceship from my office. Next year is going to mark our 40th year in business and my 45th year in the industry. We manage for high net worth individuals, for families, and some institutions. What's unique about my firm is many of our clients have been with me for 15, 20, 25 years. That's unusual in the industry, or maybe the average client retention rate is about 5 years. And we do that because we pay very close attention to our clients' interests. There's a number of factors that are involved, lots of conversations with the clients, And they know that my guiding principle with the company is to get them more money now and in the future. Because of the length of the client base, because of how we position ourselves, we're looking more like a family office now than a traditional real estate property management firm. When I meet privately with Sal, we call ourselves the dinosaurs, and we do that for a number of reasons. I really am a dinosaur because I don't do PowerPoint, and I'm going to read from my notes in front of you today, and I apologize for that. I know that's not the modern era. I'm a dinosaur. I'm also a dinosaur because I prefer paper and written notes, and my staff laughs at me because whenever I receive a PDF, I print it out to read it. But dinosaurs also have the advantage of being early in history. So let me give you a bit of my background here. Many years ago, this goes back into the prior century, I started to set up and I maintained a bulletin board service, and that's abbreviated BBS back in the day. And a bulletin board service let my clients and other members dial in on their telephone using typically a 300 baud modem, right? Dial into my server, log in, and then they could start to see, and we started listing Bay Area apartment buildings for sale. We also listed rent control ordinances at that time. That was just entering into the San Francisco Bay Area and across the country. And you've got to remember that this was years before the internet was invented. And I was publishing apartment listings through my BBS years before LoopNet and CoStar was invented. Several years ago, I got a phone call from a gentleman by the name of Jonas Bardo, and he had just left a very large apartment institutional REIT based, I believe, out of San Francisco. And he called me and he wanted to discuss property management. We got together over coffee, started to talk, and Jonas asked me, Robert, what's a problem in property management we need to solve? And immediately I said, I hate Craigslist. And I'll be honest with you, Craigslist isn't good. And it wasn't good then because there's so much scams going on and so many residents are being hurt by online scams that we hated to use it. And it wasn't very friendly in terms of broadcasting across platforms. And Jonas took it to heart. He went home, and a few days later he called me and said, Robert, I'm running with the idea. Today that company is called Dwellsy, and it's not well known. But Dwellsy claims that they've got over 10 million apartment listings on their website. And you compare that with apartments.com, which has 1 million. And a few years ago, I was invited to be a strategic partner with a venture capital firm by the name of Shadow Ventures. They're based out of Atlanta. And among other things, what they offer is funding for construction and real estate technology startups. So being in Silicon Valley, kind of technology is in my blood, and I've got a long history of it. The dinosaur in me. I'm uncertain about the timing of a recession. Many think we're in one now, others say it's coming. If and when it develops, however, we know from experience that vacancies are going to rise and rental rates are going to drop. Simple supply and demand. And when that happens, our focus is going to change from what we have been, which is order takers up through COVID, but many places across the country were order takers during COVID. And we're doing everything possible now to retain our residents. And we know that resident retention begins with service. Resident retention begins with service. And what that means is you've got to pay attention to the needs of your residents. And what's the number one reason that tenants leave you, that you start to have more in turnover? Typically, the number one answer is because of a lack or just poor maintenance. 2 and 3 are cleanliness and security. But because of the economic winds now that we're probably facing, if we're not in now, my company is now spending considerable time in improving our services, and we're taking a very close look at our maintenance capabilities, thus the relationship with Plentific. As Sal had mentioned, there's 3 primary focus areas that we're looking at. We're looking here at turnovers and also work orders included in that, inspections and data analysis. Regarding inspections, Sal was mentioning that the industry is becoming more complicated. And I'll tell you, nothing is more true than when it comes to inspections. Years ago, the inspections used to be prompted by our residents and by our on-site managers. Those days are gone. Now who's doing inspections? We have lenders coming on site. The insurance companies like nothing better than to come on site with their inspections. And government agencies all mandate repairs and improvements through their own inspections. Complexity has been added to real estate. And the way you handle complexity in this business, and probably many others, is through technology. Let me just expand on the inspections to give you an idea, those of you that aren't boots on the ground with apartment buildings. We need to schedule and document smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, mold and mildew, water and roof leaks, swimming pools, common areas, and all the amenities attached. That's in addition to what the insurance agencies give us, which is, Robert, we're done looking at your Zinsco electric panels in your units, replace all of them. And that comes from other things that insurance companies are doing. Then you've got the government laying on top of that with inspections and repairs and upgrades. Things like, I'm in California, things like, in the next few years, any wood balconies and patios that are more than 6 feet off the ground have to be inspected and documented with licensed contractors or licensed professionals that have been approved to go ahead and do the inspections. In terms of data analytics, I want the data on our properties. I want it on our units and I want it on our operations. I want that data and I want it to analyze and for future needs. That might be, oh, okay. Okay, let me just summarize then. I've mentioned, and the prior individuals had also mentioned that you've got to have your data. 2 principles I push with my team at IPS. The goal of any business is fundamentally to make more money now and in the future, and what gets measured gets managed. I want the data because I want the data because when AI becomes viable and we can trust it, I want to be ready with historical data, and artificial intelligence will be needed to push resident retention, operations, and profitability beyond our capabilities, beyond our competition. One thing that I will mention is sometime in the future about data analytics, and I suspect this may happen, and maybe sooner than even what I expect, the data and the historical data that you get on your apartment buildings and other properties, once you've got it and once it's plugged into the AI machine, I suspect it's going to be more valuable. Well, maybe not more valuable, but it'll have great value in addition to the property itself. In the future, I see if you sell the property, you're not just selling the personal property and the physicalness of the building. There's going to be a value to attach to the data. And that value will come from the next owner in line for the property is going to take that historical data, plug it into their AI machine, and continue forward with their greater profitability to make their investment work. Thank you.
Awesome.
Sorry for running over. We're on the floor. As soon as you walk in the door, if you want to see us, stop by. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Yeah.